Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our community awareness program. We've got a wonderful panel for you to listen to today, and you will be able to ask questions, but I'll go over that in just a minute. So if I can have everybody please stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. So I just want to make this clear for everyone, please. You will be able to ask questions, but give each of our speakers the chance to present something first, and then you may ask them a question. Again, you must use the microphone. Bob and I will be going around with a microphone if you have questions. So we will take questions after each speaker. But please keep your questions to just what we're talking about. We're not talking about the homeless. We're not talking about the warehouse. We're not talking about any of those things. This is for evacuation, what happened in our fires, that type of thing only. So please keep your questions to the subjects that our panel is going to be presenting to you. So the first person that we're going to have speak is Sergeant Roberto Jauregui from the Banning Police Department.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Jauregui. I'm with the Banning Police Department. I was asked to come speak about the recent fires we just had here, Highland Fire, and the response from the Banning Police Department. I was one of the responders throughout the fire the first night, and I kept coming back a few days later as the fire kind of evolved. But one of the things that I've noticed that I think can be changed in the future is, just your cooperation. If you're asked to evacuate, please try to do so efficiently, and don't linger. There's a lot of people that were driving around, hanging around, oh, I want to come see what's going on, being nosy. We don't need any of that. We got fire trucks, different first responders coming in and out through that gate off of Breckenridge, and it made it difficult for people to get through. There was a lot of unnecessary traffic on golf carts, on foot, people in their personal vehicles just being nosy. And if you really don't have any business, I'm not trying to be rude, it just makes it a lot easier for us to get the evacuation process going, and for first responders to get in and out efficiently, smoothly, and to let them work. We're trying to help facilitate safety and security, getting people out. They were putting out the fire. So if we're allowed to do our jobs, it'd be great. Like I said, there was a lot of people that were out and about, lingering, showing up, asking questions. You guys have an emergency operations center that got activated here. The communication was going through them, and there was a lot of social media or other different platforms that were also delivering information that day, giving live updates in regards to the fire. But that's the only thing that I can really tell you guys that would definitely help us and all the other first responders and security. There was a lot of people, like I said, wandering around, driving around their golf carts on foot, and it's just kind of unnecessary. You can watch it on the news, they'll tell you about it later. Just helps us to just clear everyone out, get everyone out. And if you can help your neighbor get out, some people had mobility issues, help them out. Some people had golf carts, used their golf carts to help transport others, which was great. So aside from that, I think it went very well. There was a large outpour and support from CAL FIRE and different other agencies throughout the state that came out and helped. There was a lot of people working there day in, day out, and I'm grateful for everyone that helped out and for everyone that was cooperative in helping out in this fire. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I have a thank you to all you guys and your staff for the remarkable job of saving Sun Lakes, because that fire, I understand, did get awful close. So thank you for your efforts, and you've done this a number of times since I've been here in 6 years, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ann Oliver, and I am the EPAP coordinator for that particular area on Breckenridge. I live on Fairway Oaks. I could probably see the fire better than the people on Breckenridge because they had a hill behind them that was blocking it. Oh, you need it up higher, okay. I did not try to go up there because I figured that there were plenty of you up there until later in the evening. But one of the things is the communication between the authorities and our emergency preparedness group was being mixed. Some people said they were asked to shelter in place. Other people said they were asked to prepare to evacuate. Other people said, oh, we have to evacuate. It became very confusing. I was going through the EPAP office. I didn't go through any of the social media or any of that other stuff. But fortunately, as I said, there were no serious damage, no serious injuries for all the people that were up there. In the evening, as things went by, I drove my car with my emergency blinkers on and stopped and talked to a couple of the firefighters that were there and some of the residents, because there's only two ways out of that. People who were trying to evacuate through Gate 6, and they couldn't get out because the fire equipment was going in. And the same thing with going down the other road. So evacuation needs to be practiced a little bit more for all of us.
Real quick.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got something real quick. Sir?
Hang on just a second, just a minute. Go ahead, Tom.
So I'll address that when I talk about evacuations and the way we communicate the evacuations, how we come to the decision on where to evacuate and why, because there will be different levels of evacuations, from a shelter in place to an evacuation warning to an evacuation order. And we'll cover all that in just a few minutes so you understand it.
My husband and I were on vacation when this fire occurred, so if this has already been addressed, bear with me. If we do evacuate and have to leave our houses, what procedures are there to guard against looting, people coming in and breaking in and looting?
I'll go and address that one, Michelle. So we do have my officers trained and prepared during an evacuation. They're going to be stationed at those open gates, so that's going to prevent non-residents, homeless, any individuals that are not welcome into the community. It'll prevent them from heading towards that direction. So we do take necessary steps in preventing unwanted attention to coming in. You're welcome.
And just to piggyback on that, there was police presence down at the Breckenridge gate throughout the whole fire. So there was police officers stationed down at the bottom of Breckenridge and Highland Springs 24/7, whether it was us, Beaumont PD, or the Sheriff's Department. It was covered, making sure that no one that doesn't belong doesn't come in.
Thank you. Mike Romero, you are next. And again, please hold your questions till Mike has finished his presentation.
Thank you, folks. This is going to go out for everybody here and those that are watching at home as well. Fire emergencies can pose a significant threat to lives and property. In such situations, the coordination between security officers and the community is crucial to ensure safe and efficient evacuation. I'm just going to outline a few procedures security officers take during a fire emergency evacuation and just highlight some of the important community responsibilities during such emergencies. Our security officers and responsibilities play a critical role in managing and facilitating a safe evacuation during a fire emergency. One of those main things are alerting and communicating. Security officers are trained to recognize signs of fire and promptly notify emergency services. We use a sophisticated communication system to inform other security members, building management, and emergency personnel such as EPAP in such emergent situations. We're also prepared in assisting residents should an evacuation order be issued by CAL FIRE or Banning PD or other emergency services. My team will be ready to guide, assist occupants to exit routes, ensuring that no one is left behind, and direct them to the nearest assigned emergency stations designated by EPAP. Remember, safety first. Prioritize safety. Do not engage in firefighting yourselves. I'm sorry, do not engage in a situation that is beyond your control. So just activate 911 immediately. I can't stress that enough to you folks. 911, follow up with a call to security, and we'll go out and assist where we're needed as well. One of the other things that security touches up on is crowd control. We also want to prevent panic. Crowd management is another role security leads in to ensure orderly movement and prevent congestion. We ask that all residents please comply with the officers as they are being directed by the fire marshal to keep the streets, walkways, points of entries and exits clear of traffic. Residents are not encouraged to stop, take pictures, block the streets in any of these emergencies. Until the fire marshal has cleared my team to allow residents back into the community, we ask that you stay away from the area until further notice. Make sure to take your pets, medication, any small personal items with you should an evacuation order be in place. It's going to be quick, folks, so you would only have a few minutes to get your items, including your pets, should you need to evacuate. You're not going to be allowed to be back in if you're missing medication. We're just going to contact 911 and have a paramedic come over to assist if you're in need of medical aid right away. The community responsibilities also have a lot to do with what we do with our emergency evacuations. The community has an essential role in supporting security officers and emergency personnel during the fire evacuations. Community responsibilities include following instructions. We ask that residents comply with officers' requests in order to ensure everyone's safety, both for the officers and residents. Cooperate with the officer. Instructions are going to be issued. Please follow them to the nearest evacuation routes in order for us to maintain our safety for both the residents and my officers. Do not interfere. Do not interfere with the emergency personnel or their operations. We want to avoid obstructions as well, folks. The roads and streets have to be clear. Do not block your roadways, streets, or access points which can hinder emergency vehicles. The accessibility is key here. We want to keep our driveways, entrances clear for the trucks and ambulances, and that includes in your house as well. If your section is ordered to be evacuated and there's vehicles on your driveways, chances are that house might catch fire. Paramedics and CDF might not be able to get to that house because it's being blocked. So that's something that I'm sure we can discuss with Banning PD and CAL FIRE as far as what you folks can do with your vehicles during an emergency situation. Information sharing. That's another key one here. We want to make sure that any suspicious activity is reported during such incidents as well. So in the event of a fire, if you guys happen to see suspicious activity around the area, still call and report it. We want to make sure that we don't have unwanted visitors coming into the community that might hinder the ability for CAL FIRE or Banning PD to do what they need to do. So report any suspicious activity to us immediately, okay? We want to help vulnerable individuals as well. We want to assist individuals such as those that are disabled or those that are in need of help. If possible, this is where your district delegates come into play, folks. They should be able to participate and make sure that they are aware of residents that might require ventilators or need further assistance to transport them to designated locations. So all district delegates are always encouraged to know your neighbors and practice procedures on what they need to do in case of an emergency. Effective fire emergency evacuation procedures depend on the collaboration between security and the community. So the officers play a vital role in ensuring for a safe evacuation, while the community members must act responsibly to avoid hindering those emergency operations. We're going to continue with my department in regular training when it comes to evacuations. We are also continuing to train with community awareness, and we do simulation exercises, which we have one coming up for the month of October as well. By following these procedures, we're working together. By working together, security officers in the community can enhance the safety of everyone during these fire emergencies, making sure that everybody returns home safe and sound. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? No questions for Mike? All right. Then we're going to go on to Chief Josh Hansen. He's the Division Chief for CAL FIRE Riverside County. So Josh is going to go ahead and talk now.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Josh. Normally, my day job, I run the Ben Clark Training Center, so I oversee all the programs, training, EMS, health and safety, all the functions that train all of our CAL FIRE individuals for the emergency responses. One of my other collaborative duties is the incident commander of a local all hazards type 3 incident management team. And Todd and I are both the incident commanders of those teams. So the county has a team made up of all agencies within the county of Riverside as well as CAL FIRE that manages a large team. So when you have these fires that happen in the community, if you're not aware, at one point in time there were 5 separate fires locally here in the county that went beyond what we call initial attack. So an initial attack fire is routinely handled with the first few engines, that first alarm assignment that comes in. When a fire goes extended attack beyond that first day, essentially, it becomes larger, more complex, difficult, has logistical issues. So we can staff our type 3 team up. So at one point that the team had 5 separate fires that we ran a complex of fires through. So this fire here, the Highland Fire was one, the Rabbit Fire, we had the Ritchie Fire, we had multiple fires all at once. So as those fires become more complex, relating that more into what we're discussing today, is the more fires there are, or the larger and more complex those fires become, the more resource deficient you become. So you're sharing resources with multiple fires or larger fires. And when that happens, the evacuation becomes critical at that point, because if we have to worry about focusing on evacuating you or you getting out, or God forbid we have to go into rescues to where we're rescuing you out of your homes that are burning because you didn't heed to the evacuation warnings, then we can't fight the fire. So I can't overstate that if we ask you to leave, there's significant reason for us to believe you should leave. And one of those is, number one, priority is your safety. Unfortunately, in the past, we have had fires with high life loss simply by not evacuating in time. So we understand as local agencies, both law enforcement and fire, we understand it's an inconvenience, and we understand that sometimes when we do ask you to evacuate, we may not lose any homes. Your home may not be damaged or burnt down, and you are simply removed for a preventative measure, and we understand it's an inconvenience. However, that you should look at that as a success. If you're evacuated from your home and you come back and not a single home has been damaged or destroyed by the fire, then that means that we were allowed to do our job and fight fire and not have to worry about removing folks from their homes. So I can't overstate or overemphasize how important that evacuation is. And my partner next to me here has a slideshow and a PowerPoint presentation that'll kind of back up a little bit and discuss the fire department as a whole for anybody that's new to the community or hasn't attended these meetings in the past. But Chief Hopkins will kind of give you the background on our agency and then what resources are here locally for you and for your protection. And then he'll end that off with some evacuation processes like he mentioned a minute ago. So we can probably hold questions till Todd gets his presentation going, and then we can tag team the answers together.
Yep, thanks. All right. So my name is Todd Hopkins. So I am also a division chief with CAL FIRE. I'm actually your fire chief for the city of Banning and for also the city of Beaumont. My other duties are, so I'm the division chief for the San Gorgonio Pass area. That means I have the coverage from Moreno Valley to Highway 62 down to San Jacinto and to San Bernardino County line. I also am in charge of the sorry about that, of the Oakland Conservation Camp that has the inmate fire crews. So I run that camp up out of Oakland. As Josh said, one of my other duties is Josh and I are both, he said, the incident commanders of not only our Type 3 team locally, but we're also incident commanders for our statewide Type 1 teams, to where we go all over the state and manage any type of incident. And we're not here for just fires. CAL FIRE, we are an all-risk agency. Same with your PD and your EMD. We respond to everything. So just this year, we've responded to the San Bernardino Mountains for all the snow that has come and have to do evacuations through there. We were both up in Tulare when all the levees broke. We had 70 levees break, and we managed building roads and building levees back so we can get those communities. We manage COVID for the county. We do all sorts of things, and that's what our incident management team does. Is we put stuff into a process so that we can make the operations be successful. And one of those processes that we do with those teams is what they talked about is with the evacuations, and how Josh said that we understand it's an inconvenience having you out of your home. And what I can promise you is that every day, multiple times a day, we have our groups come together and we talk about how can we get you back in your home. Is it the right time? And I'll explain a little bit towards the end of what that thought process is and how we come up with the decision on if we need to take you out of your home, if we can shelter you in place, or when we can bring you back to your home. So a little bit of what this is, because I wasn't sure if it was just about evacuations, is just so you understand your fire department that you have for this area. As you can see, Josh and I, we both have on CAL FIRE patches, and you guys refer to us as CAL FIRE. So we are part of CAL FIRE Riverside County Fire Department, and what it is that we are state employees. So all your firefighters that are in Banning, Beaumont, San Jacinto, out in the desert areas, most of the cities, and over on the west side of Riverside County, if they don't have their own fire department, then they contract with the county. And since the county doesn't have their own fire department, they contract to the state for their employees. So that's where you get a CAL FIRE patch riding around on a fire engine that's owned by the city of Banning or the city of Beaumont. Excuse me, or a Riverside County fire station. And this will explain a little bit of it and what being a contract with us with CAL FIRE provides to the residents of Banning. Okay. I think the batteries are dead. There's no laser. Okay, so what we have, Josh will, it's easier. So, like I said, we have a cooperative agreement with Riverside County, CAL FIRE does, and the city of Banning does. With this agreement, what it does is Banning right now has 2 fire stations. Well, one station that they have 2 fire engines that they staff. And what this does, this cooperative agreement, is this gives you the backup of 95 other fire stations when you guys have an incident in the city of Banning. So we have a consolidated dispatch center for emergency medical and fire dispatch. We have a hazardous materials response team. We have a fire arson investigation. We have fire hand crews, bulldozers, aircraft. And then we also have public information and education that comes from part the Riverside County side, part from the state side, from CAL FIRE side. So for the Banning Fire Services, we have 2 different divisions that we run. We have the fire administration side, and then we have the office of the fire marshal. What the fire administration does is I run both of these, and what I do for the city of Banning is the fire operations is going to be the fire administration. So I have a battalion chief and the 2 fire stations for the city of Banning. And then the Office of the Fire Marshal is we have somebody from Riverside County Fire Marshal's office that works with the city, and I'll get into what they do, but we have specialists. We're actually going to be adding an assistant fire marshal, so we'll have another person in the fire marshal's office, and they go out and do inspections, developments of the new developments, and do permits and some other things, plan checks. So for your operations side is, like I said, we have 2 fire stations. Currently we have Station 89, which is going to be the downtown fire station. It's right next to City Hall. And then you have Station 20, which is not in the city of Manning, it's in the city of Beaumont. And then that Station 20, and Engine 20 is what comes out of Station 20, and that's your primary engine that serves the Sun Lakes community. Also at Station 20 is, besides Engine 20, is we have Engine 3160, Engine 3170, and then we have Dozer 3142. So we have a bulldozer there. If you look at the numbers, one is like a zip code, the 3160 and the 3160, or 70 and 3142. Those are all identifiers for state-owned resources. So what you have is Station 20 is a fire station that is owned by the state of California. It's a CAL FIRE fire station. We allow the city of Banning to staff an engine out of it because it's closer for our response area where we need to be. And then you have 2 brush fire engines, which are owned by the state of California. That's Engine 3160 and 3170. And then the state-owned bulldozer that is out of there. So at that station, you usually have between about 12 people on duty every day, about 11 of them being on the fire engine. Engine 20 is a paramedic fire engine though. The other 2 fire engines for the state are not. They have EMTs on them and can do BLS care. The Engine 20 can do ALS care with the paramedics, so they can provide more medications for heart problems and other type of medical problems. Also for CAL FIRE resources, we have, besides our state fire engines, we have the hand crews like what I have up out of Oak Glen. We have the bulldozers, we have our fixed wing aircraft and our helicopters, which we're lucky when we do have fires here because Hemet Ryan, which is right there in Hemet, that is where we staff 2 of our air tankers. We staff what we call an air attack plane, which is our supervisor airplane. And then we have our Type 1 helicopter that's owned by the state. And then for this year and last year, we are also have another helicopter that it's a private contract helicopter that we pay. We call it an exclusive use helicopter. So we have 2 helicopters at Hemet Ryan's, and that's about a 5-minute flight over here. So that's why they can get on these fires so fast. You can skip that one. Skip that one. So part of the fire prevention, what I was telling you out of the fire marshal's office that they do is they do plan reviews, they do things for special effects. You got stagecoach days coming up, so they'll make sure that, there's enough, the occupancy checks, they'll make sure that they have fire extinguishers, that the public's gonna be safe when they go to those areas. That's one of their jobs. And then we also have an annual inspection program that we do for multi-family business annuals, and then also state mandate like schools, hospitals that they do. And then there's also a hazard mitigation program. Banning actually runs that through their code enforcement program. Part of the cooperative agreement, what we get from CAL FIRE is we get staffing, we get administrative support, we get chief officer support. ECC is our dispatch center. We get fleet support, our comm IT support, hazmat support, EMS support, training center, service center, prevention, law enforcement support. And what all this support does is you guys are going, well, that's a lot of support. Well, that's something that the city of Banning doesn't have to have then. They don't have to have their own warehouse to hold all of our gear. They don't have to have their own mechanics. They don't have to have their own law enforcement for the fire side, for arson investigation. They don't have to have COM IT. We take care of all that as part of the contract with either the state or the county. So now we'll get on to the evacuation part. So that's just a little bit about your fire department, of why you see a state patch riding around on a fire engine that either has a state logo, a county logo, or a city logo on it. But the good thing with that is when we get to these things, evacuations, fires, earthquakes, whatever it is that we have, a type of emergency, let's take the fires that we just had. All your fire engines in this area were on the fires. We still run about 600, 650 medical calls or other type of emergencies throughout the day. They don't stop just because we have a fire going on. So who runs those calls? When someone calls 911 and says they're having a heart attack here in Sun Lakes, but engine 20, engine 89, engine 66 out of Beaumont, all the equipment's gone, who's going to come here to tend to that person? That is the resilience that we have built into our system, is whenever there is an assignment that goes on, a first alarm assignment, it's going to go greater than the first alarm, or those resources are going to be committed more than 30 minutes, our dispatch center will start moving up cover engines. So we'll pull engines from Temecula, we'll pull engines from San Jacinto, we'll pull engines from Moreno Valley, out from the desert, up to start covering these fire stations. And we'll spread the wealth amongst all the different county and city contract stations here to help support the cause, so that you always have some type of protection for that medical emergency or that house fire or something else that's going on, why there's a big incident going on in the pass area. For the state side, we'll start pulling resources from all over the state, all the way up from Siskiyou up by the Oregon border, down by San Diego by the Mexican border. They'll start moving state resources in to cover the state facilities. So and then we also do that with our aircraft. They'll bring aircraft down, they'll bring aircraft up to help support all these fires. Now, when we get into evacuations, the way we get into evacuations, typically if we're on like the larger team stuff, is usually the evacuations will come from the recommendation of whoever our operations person is. So we break it down. You heard that Josh and I are the incident commanders. We break this down, and we took it from the military actually, is from our incident commanders, we have a planning section, we have a operations section, we have a logistics section, we have a finance section. In our operations section, we have a person called an operations section chief, and we put them in charge of the operation of, hey, I need this many fire engines to fight this fire, I need this many bulldozers, this many hand crews. They break up, we break our fires into divisions, into branches, and we start sending people out there to fight the fire. And it's based on their recommendation coming out from the field personnel to that operations person when they say, hey, the fire is going to get close to the community, it's getting close to Breckenridge, we think it has about this much time to get there, we think we should start doing evacuations. Some of it's done on experience level of the operations section chief, because usually those are more experienced people that have been fighting fire for a long time. Some of it's done with fire behavior modeling, where we have people called a fire behavior analyst that is plugging things into a computer, and it's spitting out information on how far a fire ember can be cast out and start a new fire, how fast is the fire going to move, how fast will it get from point A to point B. So we take all this into account, and we say, yep, we need to do evacuations here. So when operations comes and tells myself or Josh that, hey, it's time, we need to do this, we say, okay, let's do it. We go and we meet with our law enforcement, and usually we'll meet with Banning, and then we also meet with the Riverside Sheriff's Office. They have a team called a CERT team, but we bring them in, and Banning is the primary law enforcement here. So they are in charge of evacuations. I can't come up and say, from the fire side, say, hey, you need to evacuate. I don't have the authority to do that. The police have the authority to evacuate you. We make the recommendation to them that based on our experience, based on our modeling, that we think that this area needs to be evacuated, and we'll draw it out. Right now, we draw it out on a map. We call it a national grid map, and we use a highlighter, and we highlight the area that says we need to evacuate this area. And what we do is we break it down in these type of evacuations. I know it's hard to read because the screen's kind of far away, but the first one is the very bottom one, is the shelter in place. That's the purple. So a shelter in place means, hey, either we don't have time to get you out or we have no way of getting you out. You need to just hunker down in your house. You know, if it's a fire, you know, close your blinds, do everything, and just stay in place. And we're going to get to you when we get to you. It's either we can't get to you because a road we can't get through. There might be trees that have fallen down in front of that road. Not so much around here, but you got to think the whole globally, this whole state. But there's different reasons why we can't get to you, so shelter in place. The more common ones that we use are the next two, is the orange in the middle is evacuation warning, and then you have the evacuation order, which is in the red. And there's a difference in the two. We don't use the terms mandatory evacuations anymore. That's not a term. These are the approved terms that all of California is supposed to be using. Evacuation warning means, we used to call it ready, set, go. That means that you get all your important documents, you get any medications that you need to take, your pets, get all that stuff ready to go, get it loaded up in your car. We suggest during evacuation warning that that's the time that you leave. Get your stuff and go. That means that there's a good chance that the fire or whatever the emergency is going to get to you and it's going to impact you. But we're telling you, get ready, get your stuff, and get out. You have a little bit of time. Evacuation warning also means that the area is still open. So you can leave and go to the store and grab things that you need, come back to your house. You can come in and out. We're not going to block the roads with law enforcement. We're not doing any of that. Once it goes to an order, that's where everything changes. An order is saying you need to leave now. Get out of your house, go to the reception center, go to another family member's house, but get in your car and go. Once you leave your house, you will not be let back into the area. The roads will be closed. There will be traffic control checkpoints, and we don't let people back in. Now, with an evacuation order, we can't make you leave. If I come up to you and I say, ma'am, I need you to leave out of your house, there's an evacuation order in place. If you want to stay, we can't forcefully take you out of your house. But that's what lies the problem, is when we put the evacuation order in and you say, no, I'm not going, no, I'm not going, no, I'm not going, and then the fire is all at once impinging on your house. Now you're calling 911 saying, I'm trapped and I need help. That's what Josh was talking about, where we have to pull the fire engines off from fighting the fire and trying to protect your house to now throwing you in the back of the fire engine and trying to drive you out. And now you're jeopardizing not only your life, but also the firefighters' lives, because now instead of engaging on trying to put the fire out, we're engaging in trying to put you into a fire engine and drive you out through flames and get you out. So shelter in place means you stay hunkered down. Evacuation warning means get your stuff ready to go. And if you have someplace to go, leave. The reception centers will be posted on EMD's website, and you can go there during evacuation warning. You can go to a family's friend's house, go somewhere else outside that area. And then the evacuation order is where if you're not at home, you're not going to get let back into your house to get your animals and everything else. You're locked out for that time frame. Now go ahead and go back real quick. On the evacuation order, let's say you are out and about, there's an evacuation order, and I'm sure a lot of you have dogs, cats, whatever, and they're in the house. We will do what we can to try to help you to get your animals out. But you do, and I understand everybody, my dog is my family member. I get not so much my kids' cats, but my dog is my family member. So we will do everything we can to help you out and try to get your animals. We're probably not going to let you go in and get them. We might try to get somebody to go in there and get them for you. But you have to remember, we have to, versus your life versus your dog's life, we have to start weighing the risk first gain, and even on our firefighters' life, can they get in there to go and get your animal out? It's the same thing with medications. It's the same thing with, money, papers, whatever's important to you in your house. We'll try to get what we can, but we have to do the risk first gain. And also, how busy are we? Do we have those extra resources that could go and do that? A lot of times from the fire department, it gets passed over to the law enforcement side, and they're pretty stripped when they're trying to do evacuations. You already heard about the chaos of, trying to get people in and out while we're trying to drive our big trucks down your small streets. It gets pretty congested. So trying to get, Daisy out of your house, she's probably fine in the house, but we'll get to her when we can. So these are some of the links that you're going to want to know for evacuations. One, this is just if you want to know what's going on, and we'll leave this up so you can take pictures afterwards if you can't get it from here. But on Instagram, if you just want to know what's going on with your local fire department, is they have an Instagram page if you have Instagram. It's Battalion 3 RVC Fire, and they post incidents that are going on. They post pictures of them training, so you can just see what they're doing in the community. The other on Instagram is you can fire CAL FIRE RRU. That's CAL FIRE, it stands for Riverside Ranger Unit, and that's what your Banning Fire Department is part of, is CAL FIRE RRU. On the internet, and this is probably one of the more important things to follow or to go onto your computers and do, and I'm going to steal a little bit of Eric's thunder. I already did with the last slide, but the rivcoready.org, that is where you're going to get your notifications for what type of evacuation you're getting, and it'll go to your phone once you register. If you go to rivcoready.org and then click on Alert Rivco, it'll be up on the top left corner of the menu. You scroll down into the frequently asked questions, and you'll see a hyperlink that says registration portal. If you click on that registration portal, it'll take you to a site where you can register your phone. My suggestion is you register your cell phones. Correct, Eric? So register your cell phones. Put that information in. I believe there's an email address also, right? You can put email so you get email notifications also. But anytime we do an evacuation notice, as soon as we tell law enforcement that this is the area that we need to do, we have EMD standing right next to us along with our PIO. We say, okay, we're good. And the reason why we're asking PD is, one, like I said, we don't have the authority, but we also have to ask PD, if we're evacuating Sun Lakes, how long and how many officers are you going to need to get Breckenridge and whatever other streets we're going to get? Because sometimes there might only be 2 officers or 3 officers on duty, depending on what time of the day it is, right at night. So we're calling Riverside Sheriff, we're calling Beaumont PD, we're calling Hemet. Everybody's coming in to help do this evacuation. So they might tell me that, hey, it's going to take about 20 minutes to get officers here. We'll start now, but it's going to take us 2 hours to get all the evacuations done. Once we have that information, EMD and RPIOs, and it'll be on that CAL FIRE RRU side also, are the ones that are going to send out the message to that Alert Rivco, and it's going to get broadcast to your phone then, and then that's where your phone's going to go off and say there's an evacuation warning or there's an evacuation area. And you can also go onto their website, and I'll let Eric explain where that is, because there's a map, and you can type your address in. I think we have it on our site also. You can type in your address, and you can see if your house is in an evacuation order, an evacuation warning, or a shelter in place, and it'll tell you and it'll pinpoint you on the map. But that is a must that everybody here in Sun Lake should do, especially with having the hillside behind you if you live over by Breckenridge. Also, if you scroll down and you click on, if you scroll down on that frequently asked questions, there's certain cities that have their own alert systems, and Banning is listed as one of them. I believe they use the Nexus system. And if you click on the Banning link, hyperlink, it'll take you to Banning's registration site, and you can register there and register under Banning's. Don't only register for Bannings though. Register also for the Rivco alert, because that is the Riverside County one. And when we are in an incident management team, it doesn't even have to be an incident management team. If there's a fast moving fire through here, my battalion chiefs that are here running the fire are expected to make that decision that, hey, we need to do evacuations. Get with the whatever sergeant that comes from Banning PD and says we need to do evacuations, and get with EMD and then post that out and get evacuations going. Because the team doesn't come right away, and it takes a while to get the team in place. But during the initial attack, we can still do evacuations. So,
Also, folks, for those that are not tech savvy, Securitas uses the exact same website. So if you guys need to call security in the event of an emergency, we're also up to date with those notifications. We will be more than happy to provide the necessary information that you need that's provided through those websites if you cannot reach through your own devices or at home. So feel free to call us. We're going to be giving you up-to-date information as it comes from Banning PD and these guys that are out there on the field.
and then the last thing, and if we want to get more into this, the county did, I believe, got a grant to purchase a evacuation warning system that's called Zone Haven. It's being used widely throughout the state. It's a little bit more user-friendly on the system, and it allows more flexibility for us to narrow down evacuations, so we're not having to do, maybe when we draw our map right now, we might have to put certain streets in an evacuation order that only need to be an evacuation warning, but because of the system that we have in place right now, it includes those streets also in evacuation order. So we're taking people out of their house that might not need to be out of their house. The Zone Haven will allow us to do more pinpoint and be able to draw that evacuation order and warnings into more precise, so we don't have to, I don't want to say affect as many people. So that's something that is supposed to be coming out possibly this year, maybe next year. So, we're excited for that. Josh and I use the Zone Haven with the other communities that when we're managing incidents throughout the state, and it works very well. So that's something exciting for the county. That's kind of, so I'm going to go back kind of what that question was then about the evacuations. So you saw the evacuation warning, you saw the shelter in place, and you saw the evacuation order. That is the reason why you can have multiple types of evacuations going on. Is an evacuation order is when we think the fire is imminent or the threat is imminent and it's going to affect you and we don't want you there. Then usually if where that order is, we'll put warnings on around those areas, because if the fire does get into those areas, the likelihood that it can get into that next area is increased, right? Just if it's a fire because of ember cast, if it's wind-driven fire, we can have ember casts that are over a mile. That's where, and you guys are gonna, don't give me questions on this today, but this is where your insurance companies are canceling your insurances, is because of the ember cast model. Because you can get embers thrown out so far and you're like, I live in the middle of a golf course, why is my insurance getting canceled? It's all green grass. Well, it's because of the ember cast that can get up into your roof, into your eaves, or if you have dry vegetation around your house. That's what really helped change some of those models. So that's why we can also have the different evacuations at the same time. So I know that was a lot of information, maybe more than you wanted, but that's how we determine the evacuations. And then we do the reverse process when we're lifting evacuations. Like I said, we meet every single day. We have a private meeting to where we go through a system, everybody signs off. And once you're in evacuation order, let me explain this. The fire might have blown through your house, right? You've been out for 6 days out of your house and you're like, there hasn't been a fire in there for 5 days. Why aren't you letting me back in my house? Our process when we are letting people back in is the same thing as when we're, almost the same thing as when we're telling you to leave. First fire says, hey, is there anything that's dangerous from the fire side that's going to hurt any citizen that's in there? We'll say no, there isn't. We go to law enforcement and say, hey, do you have enough people, and are you ready to let everybody back in a systematic type fashion? They say, yep, we're good. Then we look at our infrastructure. So we talk to Edison, we talk to Banning Electric, we talk to all the different infrastructure, because if we have down power lines or we have gas meters that are broken, that was the big thing in the snow this year, is we couldn't let people back in their houses because all the gas meters were breaking from the snow load that was on there. So until the gas company got in there and got to inspect the meters, which they had to dig through 8 feet of snow to find these meters, we couldn't let people back in the area because we had meters that were catching on fire and blowing up the houses up there. So that's why, even though the fire has passed or whatever emergency has passed, we go through a systematic approach every single day, every single time, usually multiple times a day, on can we let you back in, and we have to have a yes from all the different cooperating agencies that affects. And if we get one no, then we keep you out of your house still because it's not safe for you or for the workers that are in the area. Okay, so that's why it takes a little bit longer to get you back in. The last thing, and then I'll stop talking, is when you do come back in from your evacuations, please, please, please be careful, because just because you're going back in doesn't mean that the firefighters and the law enforcement and the other agencies aren't working out there still. And you're driving in, you're trying to look at the damage, especially if there's some houses that are burnt down, you're looking back and forth, and there's a firefighter that's been working for 30-something hours that might have laid down on the side of the road or in our driveway to take a nap, and they get ran over. So pay attention while you're going. That's actually we have things called fire orders and watch out situations. One of our watch out situations is taking a nap near a fire line. And all of our watch out situations is because somebody's been killed by doing that type of situation. So please be careful as you're driving in for all the workers. Go slow while you're coming back into your homes. And then be careful as you enter back in, because there could be stuff that's broken, burnt, sharp, anything like that. If you smell something weird, leave your house, and then just, call 911 if you have to. Okay? All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Hello, my name is Ildiko Peter. I live here for 10 years now. Thank you for your time today to come to explain to us what you're, all do for our benefit. Our biggest concern is once we get evacuated, how is our streets, public streets, will accommodate us? It's so congested already. And how will you be able to come when we're going out? You need to come in and do your work. And sometimes Pennsylvania is closed because the train is coming. So how do we manage this magnitude of people that will be leaving from here, potentially 3,000 cars, and you all have to come here and do your work? What kind of a system is going to be in effect for that?
Well, that's when stuff like that happens. Sometimes you're thinking on the fly. Sometimes it's that law enforcement has. So the routing of traffic is going to be law enforcement. It's going to be your security helping. It'll be EMD setting up certain locations where people can go. That's all being relayed back to everyone. Our fire engines are going to do whatever they can to get here. Any way that they can. I mean, I can't control the congestion. I can tell you that, on fires, other fires throughout the state, the Paradise Fire, it's a lot of people, died on fires up north because it was 2-lane roads and you couldn't see because of the smoke. There were trees that were falling down, and I don't have a good answer for you, except a lot of it's going to be on the fly, but you need to. That's the thing about when it's an evacuation warning. If you leave then it's not as much traffic if people actually leave. When it's the order, and then you decide to leave, or you decide to leave when it's really getting crazy, then it makes it harder on us. But I can't do anything about the trains. There are two, we have the two routes of going right now with the overpass and the underpass. Our fire engines, a lot of them are four-wheel drive, so we know of other ways that we can take dirt roads, that we can get access to certain areas that we've done. I just don't really have a good answer. Some of it's on the fly, but I would say listen to your law enforcement, listen to your security officers, listen to anybody that's telling you and then here's the other thing. How many of you actually pull over when a fire engine's coming down the street? Okay? Because most people don't pull over anymore. Even if there's a center median, they don't pull over if they're on the other side of the street. Well, especially coming up Highland Springs, our fire engines have to come opposing. We call it opposing, driving on the other side of the street all the time because people don't pull over. They get backed up at the lights. The fire engines can drive over the center medians. They can drive on a sidewalk if they had to. But if you just pull over, even if the fire engine's on the other side of the street, that's what you're supposed to do. And people just don't do that. So obey the laws, I would say also, is another thing. And I think there's also other things in place if it became to emergency. The law enforcement can have public works turn on lights, so it's all green lights going out, so they just keep on going, and then red lights, so it's all coming in. And there's that kind of stuff that we have done in the past in certain areas.
I'd like to piggyback onto that, Michelle, if you don't mind. So what we can do inside of Sun Lakes, obviously we can't control outside, but as residents, we can participate in not clogging up our entries or exits. The looky-loos, stopping and taking pictures, that's going to prevent congestion inside the community. My officers are automatically prepared into making sure gates are always in the up position in the event of an emergency. Regardless what gate it is, folks, gate number 6, gate number 5, the main gate, there will be a point of exit, doesn't matter where you're at. We are ill prepared to make sure that everybody leaves in a safe manner. We just don't want somebody stopping, preventing the congestion, to congest the exits and entrances and preventing these guys from coming in. So you can do your part by making sure that you're paying attention when you're out on the roads and how fast you can get out of the community so that everybody can get out in a safe manner.
So I have a question, or actually really a concern. I'm a resident on Breckenridge, lived here a little bit over a year. I'm in the hillside. So the fire had come within 50 feet of our home. My concern is, what are your recommendations for us as residents who live on the hillside of Breckenridge, what we can do to prevent the fire from getting as close? I know that we have no control over the hillside. We only have control of the plants that are in our own yards. But my concern is since the fire, we've planted ice plant. I lived in a community in Orange County, Yorba Linda, where we were a part of the fires, and the fire department would come around and give us lists of things that we could do to prevent the fires from getting close to our homes. So once this fire happened, a friend of mine that still lived in Yorba Linda propagated some ice plant, brought it to our house, and now we're trying to get that to grow. However, there's the shrubs above us that are concerning to me, and that the CAL FIRE, the next day after the fire, was cutting down. So what are your thoughts on those shrubs on the hillside on the Breckenridge Street? And could I get some comments back on what we could do as residents to be educated on fire prevention?
I'll touch on that. So through the CAL FIRE website, we have a full defensible space program, and most of the other counties throughout the state of California, like Orange County, piggyback off of our model for defensible space. So it talks about certain green plants within 100 feet, 300 feet for any of the small brush, clearing trees that are certain heights and certain distance from your gutters, your eaves, all of that stuff. It's on the CAL FIRE website, and you can locate it on the Riverside County Fire website as well, and it'll give you specific dimensions, diagrams, the actual trees and shrubbery to plant to keep your home, we call it hardening your home, home hardening, and the defensible space program. So both of those websites have all of that info for you.
Now, I'll chime in a different way. I believe, because I was actually in London, and I had a call from a resident that lived on Breckenridge and called our San Bernardino CAL FIRE. And so I called her from London and said, yeah, what's your concerns? And the concern was the brush on Breckenridge. And what she had told me was that the association used to weed whack back there, but it had changed owners of who owned that property that was back there, that there was an owner of the property. And I said, okay, they told me that they knew who the owner was, but they hadn't had permission to go back there and do the work from the new owner yet. So I don't know if that's something you guys can look into, but
We will check into that. Lori's here and Bob's here, and they will both check into that,
Yeah.
won't you?
But I was
board
told the
members?
association used to take care of it every year, and that there were a couple of residents that just paid a person to go out there and cut some of the stuff down.
We do have a sprinkler system up there. I think you know that, but I don't know what, how, if it's working right now or what's going on with it. She was first.
The sprinkler system works, but they cannot activate them all at the same time.
Thank you all for coming today. I have never heard what caused the Highland fire.
I don't know if they've determined the cause yet. I can tell you that with all the fires that we've had going on, we've had multiple fires in Cabazon, we've had multiple fires in Ritchie Canyon, multiple fires along Gilman, and then we had the Broadway, that our fire investigators, our arson investigators have been working, but I don't believe it's still as listed as undetermined as they're doing their investigation, or it's still under investigation.
I'm on oxygen, and I'm not alone. There are many people here who are on oxygen. The problem gets to be, if you shut the electric off, we're stuck. We are dependent, those of us who are dependent 24/7 on oxygen need to be able to, most of us have a backup. The backups are only going to last us less than 24 hours because we can't keep all those big tanks in our house. So how do we let you know that we're here, we need help, and what do you want us to do so that we can get out of the way of other people?
It's a good question, ma'am. So one of the things that I personally have an experience with, I know a few residents that rely on their ventilators. There's some on Riviera, Breckenridge, Pine Valley. My department has made it a point recently to know which residents are going to be in need of immediate assistance if you're on a ventilator. I also, like I mentioned earlier, encourage your district delegates to be aware of who is in their district is in need of, in case of an emergency, is on a ventilator. So when the power goes out, it's hard to get in touch with somebody, as you know, sometimes. So try to, as best as you can, to have somebody call security, and we will make it a point to go out there and assist you. We're coordinated with EPAP and making sure that residents are able to be transported to a location. Mostly it's going to be here, the bus room here at the main clubhouse, that will provide emergency power for you. So please get in touch with your district delegates. We are going to be readily available for those that are in need of transportation should the power go out.
So,
Excuse me just a moment. Candace is going to answer this question
Right.
also.
If you can get to the bus room and and the whole community is not being evacuated, then we can set up for you to plug in your oxygen tanks in the bus room. In the event that the whole community is involved, then when you get that evacuation warning, you need to pack up the things that you need, and you need to start moving out at that point so that you don't run out of oxygen. You need to plan ahead, have somewhere that you can go, have a family member, a neighbor, an evacuation center, but you need to be planning ahead and thinking about what you're going to do when you first get that evacuation warning. That's the time for you to move.
The other thing is, too, you want to register with SCE as a critical care person. That way they know if a person's on oxygen or they have special needs, that once the power outage happens with PSPSs, public safety power shutoffs, or the power goes out, they notify us at EMD. They say, hey, there's 24 people that are critical care patients. So we're notified of it. We don't have the specifics on that, or the specific address, but we can notify our medical duty officer as well. The other thing is when there's evacuations and we have a care and reception site and it turns into a sheltering site as well, we'll have medical staff there that we can get more oxygen there at the shelters and care and reception if necessary. But have a plan. It's very, very important to have a plan. So look at all the different options. Contact your folks here, let them know that, hey, I'm on oxygen, or any other critical cares that you may have.
And the final thing, ma'am, is one, we typically, we don't usually aren't the ones that shut the power off. So I'd much rather have the power on while we're doing things so we can see and it's lit up for us. That's a lot of time the electric companies that, will shut the power off, and for safety reasons, or they might have down power lines or something. End of the day though, if it's an emergency, then you call 911 and you'll get to a dispatcher. Even if we have an incident management team, or even if it's an initial attack, our dispatcher will get a hold of us over the radio and say, we have a life threat at this address. And then if it's safe to send an ambulance and a fire engine, we will send one in there to help. Okay?
Okay, we're going to take one more question from this lady, because then we're going to go to Eric, and you can ask questions of Eric also.
Hi, my name's Jan Fleming. Lived here 4 years. I've lived in other areas, and I noticed when there was an evacuation, some of us aren't real good with computers. And if you called us on our cell phone, we'd have to find it first. Don't your trucks and your cars have loudspeakers on them that you announce evacuations or fires? Because all of these people would be able to hear that, other than try to get on a computer or talk on their phone if it's not registered, so that you can give them an evacuation. But I've lived in areas where it was announced and they went up and down the streets in the area where the fire was. I don't know if you have speakers on yours, but where I live, they had loudspeakers, and we knew there was a fire or an earthquake, and we all did our part and left.
So that is one of the things that law enforcement does do, is there's different types of things. Sometimes they go door to door, and they actually will physically knock on every door that they can. It all depends on how many officers they have, what time of day it is, how many homes they're trying to evacuate. So there's going door to door, there is putting out on the PA system. They have, on certain cases, it's not so much fires, because usually we have our own aircraft in the area, but they've used helicopters with their PA systems to do announcements. I know they just did an announcement the other day over in Beaumont, because there was a suspect running around and the helicopter overhead was telling people to shelter in place while it was flying around, while law enforcement was looking for that suspect. So law enforcement does do that. Typically the fire department isn't going to go around on their PAs announcing the evacuations. They're too busy actually trying to fight the fire. And that's why we partner with law enforcement, because again, we don't have the authority to tell you to evacuate. We make the recommendation to law enforcement, and then law enforcement, they have the authority to do the evacuations.
Okay, so what we're going to do, Candace, hang on just a minute. Eric Cadden, he's a supervisor for Emergency Management Department, so he's going to give a little presentation right now. Hold your questions till the end so he can answer them for you. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that Chief covered with evacuations is that we'll draw a square or circle where the evacuation orders and warnings are going to be. Once the initial evacuation orders and warnings are going to go out, you don't have to be registered for Alert Rivco because it goes out a WEA, Wireless Emergency Alert Network. When we send that out, once we get the confirmation from Fire and Law, once that goes out, we only have 90 characters to put that emergency evacuation order out. The evacuation orders are warning. That's from FEMA, so we only have 90 characters. Signing up for Alert Rivco is when evacuation orders are downgraded to warnings, or if the evacuation orders and warnings have been lifted. So that's the benefit of signing up for Alert Rivco. The other thing I want to emphasize too is please, please don't follow your friend's social media saying, I heard this, I heard that. Go to a reliable source, such as Rivco Ready. One of the things that we'll do is anything that fire puts out, we'll rebroadcast it or retweet it, right? So follow social media from a reliable source such as Fire, Law, EMS, City of Banning. That's very, very important because there's a lot of misinformation that gets out there all the time. One example I can remember is with the mountain fire. I was up in Idlewild, I was talking to somebody, and somebody said, hey, the gas station down the street blew up. I think it was at 243 and 74. I'm like, when? It blew up last night. I go, no, it didn't. I was just there 5 minutes ago. And they were insistent that it blew up because they had heard that on social media. So please follow reliable sources, okay? That's very, very important on that. The other thing, too, is you may think, evacuation warnings, I've got time. The other thing is that can change at a moment's notice, and that happens quite a bit. One of the examples is the train in Paris. There was a hazmat incident there. The train had some chemicals in there, and it was reacting, and they were pretty sure it was going to explode. It went from, hey, Eric, we're going to have evacuation warnings probably in an hour or so, to literally 5 minutes later, we got to do evacuation orders now. So it can change quickly. Be prepared. Have your stuff ready to go. Once the evacuation warnings are going out, you think, I got a little bit of time, no big deal, or anything else like that. We don't know when that's going to change, and we've seen that time and time again. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared for a disaster, having plenty of food, having plenty of water. Be prepared to go. Have stuff in your car, in your a go kit, right? How many people have enough water right now? Does anybody know how much water do you have, ma'am? So you have quite a bit. What's your address so I can go there? No. But in all seriousness, you need at least a gallon a day per person for at least a week. A gallon a day per person for at least a week. That doesn't include Fido and Fluffy, right? Our pets. Oh, you were in Northridge. Okay. And with the Northridge earthquake, that brings up a great point. Do you know that was not a major earthquake? That was a moderate earthquake. It was not a major earthquake. Yeah, and that was only a 6.4 earthquake. Now imagine when we get that 7.9, 7.8 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault. So very, very important to be prepared. With the fires, you know, we had so many fires going on that day. We had multiple emergency management crews out doing evacuations. I was the last one to go to this fire when this happened, and it was like, oh my gosh, I hope we don't have more fires because we're getting low on personnel too. We were bringing in more people too, but when those evacuation orders go out and those evacuation orders, warnings and orders go out, please, please listen to that. And what's also going to happen is, like Chief said earlier, we're going to get bleed over, and some people get upset. Well, why are we getting this evacuation orders? Well, no matter what we do, the way the system is, there's going to be a little bit of bleed over, even though we draw the perfect square. So just know that, but be prepared and be ready to go. And again, you can go to Alert Rivco to sign up there. And then our website is rivcoready.org. rivcoready.org. When you sign up, we don't give out any of your information, your cell phone, email address. I got bad news for you. It's already out there anyway, but we don't give any of that information out. And that's to get the alerts saying, hey, the evacuation orders have been downgraded to warnings, because we cannot send it out for a WIA. That's FEMA's rules. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Yes, ma'am.
Hang on, Linda, Bob's coming.
While
sitting
they're
down.
bringing the microphone over us, Eric made a good point about being ready. We've been talking mainly about the wildland fires that have been just going on, but if we do have that earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, I hope everyone understands the infrastructure that we have here through the pass area. So not only do we have the major railroads that we know about, the trains, right? How many trains and 4-mile long trains that come through here every single day. We have major Southern California or SoCal gas pipeline, and then we also have the Kendall Morgan pipeline that runs all types of different fluids through it. If we do have a big earthquake here, we might not be able to get to you for a few days, depending, because that's where we're going to have to end up managing the area, and essentially probably all the different division chiefs in the different areas are going to have to make that decision and start prioritizing stuff. We're going to be cut off from resources of being able to bring extra resources in here on something like that because of, you know, freeway systems being shut down or broken, trains being stuck. So you got to be prepared to be able to take care of yourself for those other type of disasters that, you know, potentially could happen in the pass area. So please do what Eric says and be prepared.
Linda, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
You said to people who are on oxygen should register as critical care people. Where do they register?
You can register for, you're in Banning Electrical, right?
Banning Electric, not not SCE.
Not SCE. Banning should also have it as well. I would contact them. I don't have their contact information, but contact Banning Electric, and all the electric companies are supposed to have, if a resident is what they consider a critical care customer, so they know that, hey, we need to get the power back on for this area as soon as possible because we have critical care residents. That you can register on their website, so they are aware of it. And once they notify us of the power outages, they'll let us know, hey, we have 30 critical care customers in this area. They won't tell us any of the specifics. They can't, but again, just like Todd said earlier, if it's an emergency, call 911. The other thing too is with disasters going on that, a lot of people think that, oh, fires. The most common disaster we have here in the county is actually flooding. And we saw that with hurricane coming through right now, the tropical storm Hillary. A lot of people on the west side, we didn't get affected that much, but the east side, the desert, they got hit pretty hard. And they got hit pretty hard again with this last little storm that went through there. So flooding is the most common disaster and the most expensive disaster. The nice thing with fire, I shouldn't say the nice thing with fires, it's not a good thing to say, but from a perspective of going to see what damage has occurred, we can kind of say, okay, the fire went that way, and we know that there's probably damage there. So when we're doing damage assessment, fire and lawn, and the county is doing damage assessment, it's a little easier to follow. But with flooding, we're finding out things a week later because we don't know where all the flooding may have occurred. We know generally we know where it's going to happen, but it changes a lot. And Cathedral City was one of the cities just got hit hard. The rail system got hit hard. They're actually all the mud and covered up the rail system out there in the desert. So I think they've got it pretty much cleared out now, but that's still going on, and we're dealing with that still going on with the tropical storm Hillary. With that, so be prepared, not just for fires and earthquakes is the major one, and you're going to be stuck, right? And people will often say, well, how will I know when I'm prepared for a disaster? Treat it like a camping trip on a moment's notice. So think that you're going to be stuck here and you're going to be camping with that catastrophic event. And we know it's going to happen, we just don't know when.
Since you brought up the much dreaded earthquake, down the middle of Sun Lakes, there's high power lines that stretch all the way across. There's also some of those pipelines underneath there, by the way, which I think is kind of odd. Why would somebody put a pipeline underneath high power lines? So if they come down, the south part of this place is not going to be able to get out. I know that you go back out gate 6 and you go south, there's some land houses back there, is that a way to get out if we have to? Because I live on the other side of the power lines.
Is that, I don't know.
Oh.
The simple
It's,
answer.
No.
so right
That
now.
that is not a way to get out, sir. If
Well,
you need
there-
to go out gate number 6 and you're talking about heading
South.
south,
Yeah,
that's all dirt
because you
road.
can't get across the power line because they're down.
That's more likely going to be closed off, or there's going to be PD standing by to prevent people from going that direction.
So what would you recommend we do if we get the power line down? and
If we
can't
have
get
a
out?
power line down in that area, we might have to use the property Four Seasons to get across, to get to a safer location.
okay. I
So
didn't think
we're
about that.
definitely planning ahead.
Yeah, I know you are.
So we want to make sure that everybody is safe, but definitely follow protocol with what you're being told and where to go.
Thank you.
The other thing, if it's a power line down, you can shelter in place for the time being. You know, and then we'll make sure, you know, you'll get notifications through the alert revcos of when the power lines are dead, and then we'll get the power company in to come cut lines and get roads open. I mean, if it's not life threatening where you're at and you can end up staying and we're not telling you to get out, then like I said, sometimes the best thing to do is shelter in place.
About the power lines. We've had a couple of power outages in Sun Lakes that's only been half of Sun Lakes. No, not the north side. No, basically, it went, I live on Fairway Oaks, and Boca West, or not Boca West, I can't remember. The street behind me had power, and it was out for a couple of hours, so a lot of people started to panic a little. On the 4th of July, we had it out. And so other people didn't notice it because they were all, but our area and all the way, I live on Fairway Oaks, west of Fairway Oaks was all out. And then a while ago, a couple of years ago, I guess, we had a power outages in there, and then it got dark. It's not bad when it's light, but as soon as it gets dark, people get really panicky. So I just wanted to inform you that if you are in an area that you need power, make sure, check some of the other areas within some lakes, they might even have it.
And again, that goes back to being prepared for any type of disaster. Treating it like if you're camping, you're going to have plenty of flashlights, right? Have glow sticks, anything you can think of. Be careful with candles, open flame candles, especially with earthquakes, right? And oxygen, that's the other thing. Yeah, thanks, Chief. Oxygen or anything else like that. So be careful with any open flame candles. The great thing is now they have those LED candles that give off the same kind of candle light. So, and it's not an open flame. So be careful with that.
Thank you all. I'm the American Red Cross instructor here, your first aid and CPR instructor, and I've been instructing for years. People do not get it, that they need their ready bag, that they need their food supplies, that you're not going to come. There's not going to be people that can get to us. We have to take care of ourselves. That's why your EPAP is so vital, you know, and we have to support our EPAP, our zone captains and everything. You have to prepare your wife, your husband, your dog, have your food supply. It's very easy to do. You get a big bin, you put things in, and you check it twice a year. Please take care of yourselves.
So I'll just give you a quick example on that. So we talked about the snow, right, this year up in Big Bear and that area, and Josh and I were both up there. My whole job on that fire was dealing with the volunteer groups that formed, because there were so many people that were trapped, that were getting on Facebook and everything and saying that they didn't have food, and then the volunteers, because the grocery stores got wiped out, right, the roofs caved in, so no food, didn't have medications, they're trapped, and the people weren't prepared, so you had volunteer groups that were trying to coordinate outside what the fire department, police efforts were, and it was a big cluster trying to do that. So my whole job for 3 weeks was wrangling in a bunch of volunteer groups to get food and stuff and get a systematic approach of who actually needed help and who was just not wanting to go out and walk in the snow and get their own stuff or dig out their own car to go and get their food. But some of those people weren't prepared, and that, you know, who would have thought that in Crestline you're going to get 8-10 feet of snow, because it just doesn't happen, right? Well, it happened, and they weren't ready. So the go bags and just being prepared would help. Just having a few days supply of food at least, because it took us a few days to get in there.
Okay, no more questions right now. Steve Neese, you are next, and this Steve Neese is from EPAP Animal Group.
When children are lost and scared, they're always able to go up to someone and tell them who they are and where they live. When your pet escapes from your home and is lost, unless they have an ID on them, they cannot tell you where they live. And when a child is in danger, an Amber Alert is sent out. With lost animals, there are no Amber Alerts, but there is our group. We are your Amber Alert. We are EPAP Animal Rescue. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Neese, and I'm on the steering committee for EPAP Animal Rescue. First of all, we'd like to thank Michelle Walder for inviting us here to explain who we are, what our group does, and has done for the past 25 years. On behalf of our 85 members, thank you, Michelle. I'd like to introduce the other members of our steering committee who are here today: Sandy Burgon, Chris Cobell, Carol Creekow, Doug Winnicky, and Susan Morrison. They asked me not to make them stand up, so I'll let them sit down. How many of you have not heard of our group or don't know what we do at Animal Rescue? A few of you, okay. This should only take a couple hours, so sit back and relax. I promise I'll have you out of here by dinner. So who and where are we? We're 85 members who are here in Sun Lakes to help and rescue lost animals. Unfortunately, all the animals we rescue are not living here. Many people from outside of the community have learned that we help animals, so they dump their animals over the gates. They literally throw their dogs over the walls. In the past, we've rescued many animals: dogs, baby bobcat kittens, a tortoise, and yes, we were able to reunite the tortoise with her owner. We're divided into several committees: Craft Fair Committee, Activities Day Committee, EPAP Drill Committee, Animal Rescue Committee, Animal Fostering Committee, and Kennel Care Committee. Our headquarters are in the EPAP building. We have 3 large kennels behind the building, which can handle many animals. We're stocked with food, water bowls, food bowls, blankets, leashes, collars, treats, and other supplies. This brings me to our number one responsibility here in Sun Lakes. We are responsible for the rescue of any animals here in Sun Lakes in the event of any emergency. We hold our annual drills with the EPAP group. In an emergency, dogs run and cats hide. So when this happens, homeowners call their zone captains or their district coordinators, and they call EPAP headquarters, who then call us. We send a 2-person team out to find the animal. Sometimes when a homeowner is hurt and has to be taken to the hospital, they will not leave their pet behind. They call EPAP headquarters, and we go to the home to take their pet to our headquarters and place them in our kennels with food and water. We take care of the animals until the owners are able to come and get them when they're released from the hospital or from urgent care. At a past drill, we rescued 2 dogs whose owner would not go to the hospital unless their pets were taken care of. We picked them up, took them to our kennels where we protected them. So in a nutshell, EPAP rescues the humans, we rescue the animals. I'll let you decide who's more important. Each of our groups considers our job very important. So for the next 2 hours, I'd like to tell you what else we do at Animal Rescue with your donations, so you'll know every dollar you give us is money well spent. When we find animals in Sun Lakes and they have no ID on them, we try to find their owners. We post pictures around the area, put their pictures on Channel 97. We email thousands of friends, neighbors, residents, and people outside of Sun Lakes. If the owner's found, we will not return the pet unless the owner can verify the description of the pet and the owner proves to us that they have obtained proper ID to place on the pet. Then we will return their pet. When we're not able to reunite animals with their owners, we try to get them adopted. Usually that means taking them to the vet for shots, treatment, microchipping, spaying, and neutering. Many times we deal with the following types of rescues. We find pets within Sun Lakes who are never identified. We have homeowners who can no longer take care of their pet and want us to find them a home. We have homeowners who have died and no one is able to take over the care of their pet. Sometimes relatives don't want the pet. We have homeowners who move into a facility and cannot take their pet, nor do they have any relatives to take it. We recently found a dog and tried to reunite her with her owner. When the dog was brought to the owner, we were told she let it out on purpose so she could get rid of it. So she did not want it. Guess who got it? We try to find homes for all of these situations, but unfortunately, we're not always successful. We also recently found a dog here that was in dire need of medical treatment and ended up costing us $500 in vet bills. Well, we buy things to help the community. Young men down here, be sure to listen. In the past, the fire departments only had oxygen masks for humans. So we bought 2 oxygen masks for animals. So if your animal needs help, Engine 20, or as we fondly call it, the Sun Lake Special, now has an oxygen mask for your pet. Also, we bought one for the Banning engine as well. This reminds me of a cartoon I recently saw in the paper. A dog named Ruff was riding in the back seat of his parents' car, and he was backing down the driveway. Ruff's friend saw him leaving and yelled, "Hey, Ruff, where are you going?" Ruff yelled back, "When I get back, I'm going to be a lot smarter than you because I'm going to get tutored today." We make donations to shelters in order for them to accept animals we find. The no-kill animal shelters require money to turn an animal over to them. We usually have to pay $150 to take an animal from us. Our members volunteer at the new Banning Animal Shelter to help reduce expenses for the city of Banning. During the Idlewild fires a while back, Banning High School was the refuge point for people to take their animals. We purchased the food for the animals when their owners evacuated their homes. We have upkeep for kennels, disinfecting items, brooms, pet food, tags for animals. We collect and distribute towels, blankets, and miscellaneous items to shelters in the county. We print flyers to post around the community for lost animals. We hold meetings about 5 times a year. These are held in the multi-purpose room on the 3rd Monday of every month of the year. These meetings have speakers to benefit the pets of homeowners. We write articles for Lifestyles and Sun Lakes Life to educate the community pertaining to their pets and alerting to them to dangerous animals in the community. We have a partnership with Four Seasons when looking for lost pets or need to rehome a pet. There's a lot more items, but you need to be out of here before midnight. It's also important to note that we work with all the guards here at Sun Lakes, Mike, and they help us every time an animal is lost. So please always remember, if you find an animal or you lose your dog here, be sure to call the main gate, as they know who to call in our group to help you. I do want to bring up one of our additional functions, which is very important to Sun Lakers. This additional function has caused many problems for homeowners, members of our committee, and the guard at each of our gates. Let me describe what happens here almost every week in Sun Lakes to let you know what this problem is. A dog gets out of his home, he runs throughout the community, a homeowner captures this animal, hopefully before a coyote or a bobcat can get it, and they call the gate for help. So what's the problem? All you have to do is call the number on the caller, right? Well, unfortunately wrong. There is no number, there's no name, there's no ID of any kind on the animal. So what happens? Here is what now takes place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, rain or shine. The gate calls one of our 5 members who have volunteered to rescue people's pets here in Sun Lakes. Their names are at the gates, so the guards start calling these people in order until they reach someone. Our member picks up the dog, or if a dog is running around Sun Lakes, heads out to find the animal. If there's no ID, we have a scanner to check for a chip. Sometimes they are, and we trace their chip to the homeowner. Unfortunately, most of the time they're not chipped. We now have an animal from someone's home who's mad, anxious, scared, and dependent on us to help it. all because a homeowner decided not to obey the law by getting it either licensed or not having it chipped, and not having any ID on it so we could bring it back to the owner. It sort of amazes us how an owner can be so protective of its pet and yet decides not to ID it, so it can be returned to them when it's run away. Many people tell us their animals never leave their property, so they don't need to have an ID. Well, many of our rescues are from those homeowners. Unfortunately, our calls from the gates do not come in the afternoon, where our 5 members have just had lunch and are wondering what to do next. These calls come in the middle of the night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, when it's raining and very cold outside. They don't complain about the calls, they just wake up, get dressed, and head out to the appropriate gate to save the animal or search the community to find it. So now back to our dog who has no ID. What do we do with them as the guards can't take care of them? We do one of 2 things. First, we also have members of our group who take in lost animals and foster them until the owner can be found. Second, if there are no foster parents available, we place them in our outside kennels while we're all looking for the owners. Unfortunately, the kennels are hot in the summer and very cold in the winter since they are not enclosed. Sometimes the owners are never located and we start the adoption process, hopefully finding someone to adopt the pet. Please be sure that your animals are identified. Don't just put a tag on them. Remember, they can get pulled off or lost. Get them chipped. And also remember, people steal animals and take their collars off the ID off of them. The chip is embedded in their neck. Also remember to update your information with the chip manufacturer so it's current if your pet is found. Many people move into Sun Lakes and they forget to contact the chip company. We purchased 2 scanners. We have one and we gave Gate 1 the other one. So when someone finds a lost pet, we can scan them, or the guard at the gate can scan them also. The 2 scanners cost us over $700. A new rule was approved by the Board of Directors in January in 2016. All dogs within Sun Lakes must have an identification on their body at all times. This may include a tag, license, or microchip. If a dog is picked up by security or a homeowner and cannot be identified, it'll be turned over to EPAP Animal Rescue. If the owner is found, he or she may be fined $25 for the return of the dog. At the end of 30 days, or at EPAP Rescue's discretion, if the owner is not found, the dog will be offered for adoption or turned over to Banning Animal Shelter. Animal Rescue can only operate by no donations to our group. Obviously, it's cost us a lot of money to take care of all the animals we find in Sun Lakes. In order to do all of the above, we need donations. We have a booth at both the craft fairs every year. Also, various groups at Sun Lakes give us their proceeds from their functions each year. As you can see, we need a large amount of money to do all of the above. Should you wish to donate to our group, we have a donation jar in the back of the room. 100% of all your donations go to help our pets and animals found in Sun Lakes. And remember, if you'd like to join our group, our next meeting is Monday the 18th of this month at 10 o'clock in the multipurpose room. One final comment. Over the years, we've had people say they'd like to join the group but couldn't because sadness sometimes occurs. Let me tell you why it's worth it, because there are more times that it becomes a joy. Some time ago, we received a call from a Sun Laker who needed help. Her father died, and he owned a beautiful young German Shepherd. Her brother was going to euthanize the dog, have it cremated, and bury it with their father. We went to work, and within several days, we found someone who was willing to take the dog and gave it a good home. When you leave today, please look at our board in the back and look at the lower right-hand corner. That's Travis, the German Shepherd who was saved from being euthanized.
Thank you, Steve. I think Mike wants to say something about this
Just
also.
want to add in something real quick. We're very concerned about our animals all over here in Sun Lake. So just to remind everybody and those that are watching at home, Sun Lakes is a strict dog on leash policy. My officers will pull you over and issue a citation if you're caught. It is also state law. You need to have your dogs on a leash. Secure your dogs in your homes as well. They can easily leave through your garage door. Your side gates might not be properly secured, even your front doors. Please secure your property so that your animals don't leave, because we will end up picking them up. If we don't pick them up, you can think the worst of it. We don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that the animals get to a safe location always. Thank you.
Eric, I had a question for you. You said there was 2 sites to go to, Rivco Ready?
Yeah, Rivco Ready is our website that'll give you lots of details on how to be prepared and lots of suggestions on how to be prepared for a disaster. And within that website is Alert Rivco, where you can sign up and get the emergency alerts. So it's within Rivco Ready, but the main website is rivcoready.org, RIVCO ready.org. So rivcoready.org, and then you can sign up for Alert Rivco on there, and it should be on the top tab for Alert Rivco. So lots of different ideas on how to be prepared. The other thing is, although we have great ideas, customize your what you want for your camping trip, right? Think about what you want for a camping trip. What's going to make you comfortable for that camping trip for a disaster? So that's the biggest thing. Just be ready, though. Be prepared. Because when you're prepared, it's going to lessen that impact. It's going to be scary. There's no way around it. It is going to be very, very scary. But when you are prepared, it will definitely lessen the impact of it.
Thank you. Candace Jenkins is our EPAP executive team manager. So Candace, I don't want to cut you short, but because we can always have another one with you here.
That's okay. Since basically we are EPAP, which is Emergency Preparedness Action Plan, our task is to prepare the residents for a catastrophic event. And since we're talking about evacuations and what to do to be prepared, the first thing we are going to ask you to do is think about what you want to put in your to-go bag. So you need to think about medications, change of clothing, toiletries, any of those things that you would need on a daily basis that you're going to take with you. You also need to think about what in your home do you want to take with you. So if you have a laptop and all of your financial information is on your laptop, it's easy to grab that and go. If it isn't, you need to prepare a thumb drive that you can put all of that information on, put it in your to-go bag, and it goes with you when you leave. Walk around your house and think about what items you want to take out of your house that have sentimental value that can't be replaced. Then you have to look at the space that you have within your vehicle, and is it all going to fit? You're not going to be able to take Grandma's rocking chair. It's probably going to have to stay. But you can take albums or particular pictures that are special to you. So again, you need to look at how much space do you actually have in your car to put all of these special items that you want to take. If you have a dog, you have to think about taking their dog bed, putting them in the car, and packing things around your dog. You also have to take food for your dog, or if they're on medications, you have to think about the medications that they're going to need, because you may not just be able to walk into any grocery store or pharmacy and pick up those medications. So we're tasking you today with start thinking about all of the things that you would need to have if you were going to evacuate. And how are you going to put that into your car? The other thing is if you get a big tub and you're a little old lady like me and it weighs 50 pounds, it's going to be kind of hard for you to lift it into the car. So you may have to get rid of that big tub and get several small tubs that you can actually lift into your car. So that's all that I will say at this point. Do any of you have any questions? Yes.
There was a lot of confusion when this fire happened with notifying delegates and EPAP coordinators about the fire. I'm a delegate, I didn't even hear about it.
Right, so our process is to alert the EPAP coordinators, and then it is their responsibility to notify the delegates. We did call some of our coordinators, but did not get a hold of all of them. Some of them were not in the area. Some of them were in their homes watching TV and not even aware that we had a fire. So not all of our delegates turned on their radios and were hearing what was going on. We are currently looking at a mass text message that we can send out to the coordinators to notify them that we are activating and that they will need to turn on their radios for further information. If we have electricity and cell towers are up and we can send text messages, we will continue to do that throughout the event. If that, like in a major earthquake, we may not have that option. So then we would go to radio use only.
Questions? Questions for any of our panel right now?
What radio?
All of your EPAP coordinators have radios. We have a emergency operations center set up over by the maintenance office with a lot of radio equipment. We can contact outside of Sun Lakes. We can be in contact with Riverside County, with the police department. So we have a lot of radios, and then we have a network of radios that we use within the Sun Lakes organization. Mostly those are the EPAP coordinators that have those, and they are in contact with the Emergency Operations Center when we are activated.
But you said you were unable to contact many, or at least some of those. And I might be the one sitting in my house watching TV. How am I going to know?
That is an excellent question. As I said, we are setting up a mass text that we would be able to send a text message to your cell phone saying that we are activating and please turn on your radio to channel 4. Are you a EPAP coordinator? Okay, then you wouldn't have a radio. So you wouldn't, it would be your zone captain would come around and let you know what was going on. What happens is the EPAP coordinator activates, the zone captains go to the command center, they get the information, and they take it out to the residents. Yes, most of the districts all have several zone captains within their districts, so each of the zone captains usually only has about 12 to 15 homes that they have to go to, so they can do that pretty quickly.
So,
Sir,
and
go ahead.
On top of that, one, you also have the system with the county that if you register your
Yes.
cell phone, it'll get through. But other ways that we can help out, fire department, I'm not sure if EMD can do this or not, but we're willing to help and sit down with the EPAP and help come up with ideas because we deal with this all the time throughout the years of ideas on, like you said, a group texting.
Right.
If each zone, if it's all broken down into zones and then each zone later has, but that's up to the residents being responsible, making sure they have the correct phone numbers to where if that mass text went out, they can send it out in different zones. That's something where we can come in and also help as the fire department, sit down with the EPAP board members and come up with ideas on the best way to get communications out to the residents that are here. We're willing to come in and do that and help out. So.
We will definitely call on you for that information.
Okay, so I have a quick one here. I love all the information you've got on the presentation. Is this presentation available anywhere that I can, is there a link or anything that I can get to? Channel 97, would they just rerun it from time to time? Okay, like the slideshows and everything?
I can leave it
Okay.
on this, it's on the computer. If you have a thumb drive, I'll leave it. I don't, it's, feel free.
What we can do is, it plays on YouTube, and it'll play on Channel 97, so you'll be able to see that. It'll be continuous. Oh, and our website, thank you, our website.
There is a blast, an email blast that goes out to all residents in Sun Lakes who sign up for it. Perhaps that would be a way of letting everyone know. Can you give me something I can put in the article about?
That would be a good idea. However, that comes from Jason, and if they're not here, how are we going to get it out? If it's on a weekend, if it's at night, if it's an emergency, there's no way you could do it. You can only do it e-blast when they are here.
Okay, but it's at least you have a beginning.
Yes, if it is during a time frame when they are here, we can ask them to send it out.
Okay, so what is the way to sign up for an e-blast for people who have not signed up yet?
Okay, I'll answer that. So what happens is that when you're a new homeowner and you have elected not to have your email printed, we can't force anybody to have their email. We cannot force anybody to have their email. So when you're a new resident and you come in, there's several options that you can say, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want EPAP information, I don't want community awareness information. So they have the option to opt out of that, and a lot of them have. No, they're not in it. They've opted out of it. Well, then we have their email. They would be in the email blast, yes.
Yes.
David Keeley, and I would like to thank each of you for the time you took today to come to share this information with you. And I'm really impressed with the level of cooperation that we heard today from the city of Banning, but CAL FIRE and the county of Riverside, and of course our own Securitas cooperation, and then from the EPAP, a lot of cooperation going on that really impresses me, because it's hard to know what to do sometimes, but you have made it easy. We know how to contact you. Thanks.
Real quickly, I'll just interject that during the fire, this last fire that we had, Jason Ewalls and Chris Mitchell both sent out e-blasts after hours. So they don't have to be here to send out an e-blast.
But they do have to have your email. Are there any other questions?
I don't think you quite understand how our EPAP works. Candace notifies us. I am a zone captain. I have 22, I'm a coordinator. I have 22 zone captains, thank goodness, because I have 215 houses in my district. I have all of their phone numbers on my phone. Okay, I send out a blast. I tell them what's going on, not to worry, or we need to make plans, contact your people, and what to say. I have 4 meetings a year. I'm having a dinner this month with my zone captains. You feed them, they come. And we have had other means. Okay, I sit at night and I'm wondering, what am I going to do if the cell phones don't work? My ladies can't run back. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. My ladies can't run back to the bocce ball court where my incident command center is. So I have rovers in golf courts. All of my zone captains have whistles. They whistle, the rover has a radio, radios me. I have a radio for EPAP. I have a radio for my companion district, 16. So that's how we cover all of the north side. Just so you kind of understand how it all goes about. There's lots of us out there looking out for you.
Any other questions or comments for our panel? Well, let's give them all a great round of applause. I totally appreciate you taking time out and coming here and being part of our community and wanting to help us. So just to let you know, we're almost done. In fact, you can go ahead and leave. I know it's been long. Tuesday, October 3rd is our next presentation. It's from 1 to 3. Supervisor Gutierrez's office is going to be here. It's Identity Theft and Scams Workshop, and we have the DA, we have the Fraud Department, DPSS, we have the CARE team, and we have a burial fraud team coming in. So it should be an interesting presentation. So I welcome everybody to come to that presentation also. Again, that's on October 3rd from 1 to 3 here in the main ballroom. Thank you very much.